So my first video blew up a little bit, and you guys had a lot to say about it.
I still can't tell if it's two people or the same person
talking
twice.
to himself in real time in a way that
Why are you having conversations with yourself?
I can't tell if
It's so funny, I love it.
One thing that really
And at this point, I think I'd rather not.
He talks to
now,
himself as if it's
Why
another
did I
person.
watch this?
And so I have good news, and I have bad news. I'm back with another video essay.
And he hired someone with a similar sounding voice to make it just a little less confusing. Hi, we're Y2J. The Machine is a terrible movie, and here's how we would fix it. First, we would cut the last 5 minutes of the movie.
No, what are you doing? We have to start with the context. They don't understand what we're talking about at all. It's not going to make any sense.
Fine. Webster's dictionary defines the machine
Bro,
as a
what are you
mechanically,
talking about?
electrically...
That's obviously not what I mean. I'll do it myself, I guess. The Machine was originally a comedy bit performed by Bert Kreischer, who plays himself in this movie. And the bit is, actually pretty decent. It's good.
Yeah, if you want to watch something decent, go watch the comedy special.
Not the movie.
No, do not watch the movie.
Not the
watch
movie.
the comedy special.
At some point, Bert decided that he wanted to break into the movie industry. And instead of just adapting the story of The Machine, or having just an original idea, he decided to weirdly do both.
Yep, and in doing that, so, he had the flashback sequences of The Machine, which kind of capture a story of, the Russian mafia, and he's on a train and stuff. But then in the modern day sequences, he kind of did the same thing. There was the Russian mafia, there was a train, he, got pushed out of a train. It was kind of weird.
And his unwillingness to pick a lane here really caused a lot of problems for the movie. Tonally, it's super jarring sometimes. The movie doesn't even know how to feel about its own protagonist half the time. And his dad in the movie also has a similar...
Hold on.
Yeah,
Let's, instead of going in too hard on it just yet, let's start with the very few good things. It'll be
Okay,
a compliment sandwich.
Well, there's nothing good coming at the end, though.
Okay,
So
maybe we can call it a compliment open-faced sandwich.
yeah. Here's the compliment open-face sandwich.
We'll start with the good stuff. There was one shot in the movie I thought was good in particular. It was of a plane in the sky, and the trails from that transitioned into a line of cocaine being snorted. And I thought that was it was a well done, clean transition.
Yeah. And so the thing I had, not necessarily all good, but there was some graffiti in the movie that was on screen for 10 seconds. And it just says, Tom is fat.
Yeah.
Which Tom Segura is the co-host of Bert's podcast. And so just the idea of a studio spending money on that kind of thing is just a funny concept.
It's an interesting concept.
It wasn't funny in the movie, but...
Yeah, and in a similar vein, sorry. In a similar vein, in the first scene of the movie, Bert was in therapy, and the whole point of him going to therapy panned over to his family. His family was there, and he was just showing them how much he'd improved, which is a little bit funny of a concept. Again, I did not laugh. It was not funny.
No,
but
not at the moment. And then I think there are only two other things I can think of, which was just that the actor for young Bert was pretty good.
Yeah, he was solid.
And then some of the title cards were pretty cool.
Yeah, those were decent. Yeah.
And that's it. So since there's way more negative stuff to address, I'm gonna try and fly through the plot really quick.
And then I'll interrupt whenever there's something we need to address.
So starting off in therapy, like we mentioned, gets brought up that maybe Bert has some issues with his dad. Keep that in mind.
This has absolutely nothing to do with my father.
Huh.
Then we cut back to the house and Bert starts getting ready for a party for his daughter's birthday.
And this had super, sudden and jarring editing in this portion. It was a bit weird.
Oh, that's so not cool.
Don't. Are those nut sacks?
So they're at the party, and eventually Bert's dad shows up, and oh no, there's tension. So they go into a room to like sidebar and like hash some things out. And Bert's dad is like, hey, like if you're struggling, if you're having a hard time, you can always come to work at Kreischer Carpets.
Which is such a weird offer because Bert's
Very
dad,
strange.
Bert has been a comedian for a while. Like he's very rich and very famous, and this isn't new to his dad. He has a massive house that he's hosting this party at, and so it was a very weirdly placed line.
Super bizarre. But before things could heat up even more, a new character, Arena, really long last name, starts with a V, so I'm just going to say Arena V.
Oh, Gary's wife.
Exactly. Gary's wife comes in, and she's threatening everyone. She's like, I'm a Russian gangster, you guys need to be afraid. And then she threatens his daughter too, and is like, come to Russia with me.
But what happened to get her to be able to threaten Bert was just so extraordinarily lucky. What she did is her plan was to kidnap the daughter without the mother knowing. But how she accomplished that was just by chance. The daughter happened to want to go away for a week.
Yeah.
She didn't have any plans to go on any trips or anything that the mother wouldn't be aware of. It was just she just happened to be like, well, I'm gonna go away. And then Arena was like, now is my time. It was so lucky.
Very fortunate, yeah. Unfortunate for us, but...
Yeah, not good writing. Fortunate for Arena, Gary's wife.
Exactly. So having sufficiently threatened Bert and his dad, they both agree to go on the plane with her.
Yeah.
Their goal upon arriving in Russia is to acquire a watch that was important to her family, specifically to her dad. And that watch happened to be stolen by Bert while he was on that train 23 years ago, which is a long time.
That is a really long time.
But they get off the plane, and then there's an issue. The customs, it's just a guy, but he says...
Is he like mob or is he civilian?
Definitely mob, but he's like, hey, you have like one more person here than you were supposed to, because she wasn't planning on bringing Bert's dad. And then she just kills a guy, and then they're good to go.
Is she not supposedly like a mob boss? Like, would she... So she's a mob boss, and yet she has to answer to this customs person. But they only care how many people it is. They don't care if you have to murder someone. They don't count corpses.
Yeah, it's really a numbers game, is what it is.
It's a numbers game.
But anyway, so they get through customs successfully. It was a bit risky there, but they make it through. And then she's like, Bert, tell us where we need to go right now, or I'll kill you. And he's like, I guess we could go to where the dorms were when I was in Russia. So they both just head on over there, and...
Well, yeah, the premise that they can... Just the overall premise that they can find this watch after 23 years
23.
of her basically just asking him, like, retrace your steps. When, as far as I remember, he didn't remember the watch at all, right? Like,
No,
she
he did
asked him
not.
about it, and he was like, what watch? And so, just asking him to retrace his steps 23 years later is insane.
Well, stay tuned, because it's gonna work out.
Of course it does.
So they make their way to the dorms and weirdly try to like sneak up the elevator for some reason, because it's like locked, but there are stairs there, so I don't...
That's so weird.
Unnecessary, but Mark Hamill comes up and he's like, don't worry, I'm an Eagle Scout. I can get in anywhere. Keep that in mind, that'll come up later. Someone else just smashes it though, so he doesn't do his thing.
Of course.
They get up to the top floor. There's a flashback to what happened back in the day. Not that important. They get there and then, oh no, Arena's gangster brother comes in and he's like, I'm gonna take the machine now, and we're gonna go find the watch.
The machine being Bert.
Yes, Bert is the colloquial machine. But anyway, to show how gangster he is, he finds a random dog that's like in the vicinity and just throws it out the window of this like 3-story building or whatever.
But the dog comes back later, so it
Yes.
completely erases the point of like the comedic value, the dramatic value. It completely just negates the scene.
Doesn't really add anything.
Yeah.
That's a problem that'll come up more and more, is the movie can't decide if it wants to be a comedy or if it wants to be an action, and so it just sits in the uncomedy valley between the two.
Valley,
the uncomedic valley between the two. But after that, they figure out like, oh, Igor was like my friend. We'll go to the trains because he liked trains. Literally just because he was like on a train with them last time. They were like, well, he's gotta be on the trains now. But they head over to the trains and get on. Someone ends up like fighting them, trying to kill them. Bad situation, but they survive. And then their first instinct is to barge into the next car and demand, who sent them to try and kill us?
We're here looking for whoever sent that large, bald man to kill me and my son.
Which specifically Mark Hamill, Bert's dad, says, who throughout the movie he has been like letting people know that he's not gonna fight anyone, he's a pacifist, and he's been like depicted as being scared of what's going on.
100%.
So it makes no sense. It's not in character at all.
So obviously the train thing doesn't really work out for them. The people that wanted them dead before still want them dead, so they chase after them. And then you figure out it's actually Irina's other brother.
There's another one?
Alexei, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So they get in a chase, they go to the back of the train. He shoots her twice and she falls out of the train. And then Bert's dad shoves Bert out the back of the train.
Why?
So they both got detrained.
Okay.
Bert has a weird, like, vision thing. He's, like, hallucinating in the forest because he took a pot brownie.
Sure.
Not really important, but he's seeing the younger version of himself. And they have some, like, life realizations, but then they say just like, oh, you're getting shot at right now.
So, he's getting shot at. But he's getting shot at by, his good friend Igor, who then says, sorry, I thought you were a bear, which doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it's a really weak excuse to add some tension to the end of the last scene. But so they go back to Igor's village, and then you find out that Irina also got taken there and is alive. And fear not, because I see you fearing, I see it in your eyes. The Watch is also in that same city.
That's so convenient. Both Bert and Irina and Igor and the Watch all just happen to end up in the same place.
That's Hollywood, baby.
I don't think that's Hollywood. That's the machine.
That's the machine. So after recouping at Igor's village a little bit, Irina and Bert take the Watch and they head to Moscow to confront Alexei and get back Bert's dad. So we're going to the final climax. It's the end of the movie. They head in there, burst open the doors. They're like, hey, we're alive, and you didn't think we were, so that makes us better than you. But they get there. Bert's dad is like high on coke, so he's doing some weird stuff.
Of course.
It's Mark Hamill, you know
Mark
how
Hamill.
he is. But anyway, he kind of like has this moment, and then he stabs Alexei. And this is, I told you to remember, this is the fulfillment of the Eagle Scout bit, where he's like, ah, dang it, you're an Eagle Scout.
But that doesn't make any sense, because the setup for the Eagle Scout bit was, I can get in anywhere. I'm an Eagle Scout. And then he's just like, ah, you're an Eagle Scout.
He got into his heart.
Yeah, he made his way
into Alexei's
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, never mind. I'm on board now.
And speaking of making your way into your heart, him and Bert had some father-son bonding as they avoided the Russian mobsters. They're like hiding behind tables, getting shot at, having a good time. But then Bert is like, dang it, like we kind of need to get out of here. So he decides to drink some vodka, and then he like superpowers. Like, they call him the Machine, but that's just like a nickname. But he kind of like turns into like the Terminator and like gets like good at fighting. He's like lifting tables. Like he goes toe to toe with Alexei. Like they're fighting.
Who has been training all of his life.
Yeah.
So no, it's a terrible scene. It doesn't make any sense. There's no in-universe reason for him to be good at fighting. He's just like an overweight comedian. There's no setup for it. It's just literally he drinks some vodka and then he's
good to go.
He's good to go, I guess. It's like the super soldier serum for Captain America, except it's just vodka, I guess.
And so then they eventually they go outside, and then a mob boss dad shows up. Oh my gosh.
This is like a whole family reunion.
It is a family reunion, but at this point, I think it's time to get into our pitch.
So if you've been watching the movie up to this point, then you probably have a good idea of where it's gonna end. You might even, if you've been watching this video. Irina kills her father. She then becomes the ultimate mob boss. And then Bert goes back, reunites with his daughter, has a happy ending with his dad. They have a good relationship. It's just a happy ending for everyone.
Exactly. But I know what you're thinking, guys. You're sitting here and you're like, how could you possibly turn this movie around, make this into a good movie with only 5 minutes of editing?
Well, here's the thing. We couldn't manage to make it into a good movie. Not at all. It's not going to be a good movie. But what it is we can turn it into good art. And so, here, don't click off the video. I know. Don't try to leave. I see you trying to leave. No, stay here.
Stop that.
Stop that. Stay here. But why don't you take a look?
Irina's father decides to give control of the family to Alexei, so she takes matters into her own hands and all of the mobsters fall in line and submit to her new rule. Bert sees this and realizes his journey is about to come to an end. He thinks back to his family, who he'll be reunited with soon. But then he thinks back to his time in Russia and how much fun he had there. Family, Russia. Family, the machine. Bert shoots Irina to take control of the Russian mob and become the machine once again.
Bert.
Dad, shut the fuck up.
Bert, I'm not talking to you as your father. I'm talking to you as Mark Hamill, the actor. Are you sure you want to end the movie this way? The audience isn't going to...
Fuck that bitch, this is Russia.
So having watched the scene we put together, hopefully you get a good idea of what we were going for. But if you didn't, it's basically just this. It's the filmmaker standing alongside you and saying, hey, we're in this together, we get it. It was a bad movie.
Yeah. Which really only works if two things happen. One, the filmmakers knew how bad of a movie it was, but two, they didn't try to make it so bad that it was good. Like, they genuinely attempted to make a good comedy and action movie. So it's like a similar thing to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where at the end the cops arrest everyone, which kind of breaks the format a bit. Except it's different in tonality, because the whole of that movie is absurd. It wasn't trying to be a serious attempt at a good movie. But this would be entirely different, because it tries to be a good movie.
Yeah, it's art in the sense that it makes you think about what was happening there, like what was going on. And I promise you, if you saw this version of the movie, you would not be able to stop thinking about it. It would lock in your brain.
Yeah, for example, we saw the movie, and then just came up with this idea on a whim and have not been able to stop thinking about it for weeks.
100%. There's a quote from the new Spider-Verse movie that actually summarizes this principle pretty well.
It's more of a meta commentary on what we call art, but it's also art.
So in summary, our revised version of the movie
terrible movie,
but incredible art.
You guys ready for this Gwyneth Paltrow?
so
You're not gonna
unnecessary.
continue
That's
the
so unnecessary. Alright, fine. Okay, listen, I don't normally do this, but I'm gonna ask you guys to subscribe because not him,
We
to be clear.
suffered.
No,
We
I
suffered
had to watch
greatly.
this movie like 5 or 6 times to get ready for this video. So I need something in return, please. I can't have just wasted that much time watching Bert Kreischer's The Machine.
It's so bad.
Please help me.
But yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Bye. This concludes the
The
Gwyneth
Gwyneth Paltrow.